Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a teacher, healer, author, and modern mystic. And I am here today to talk to you about the power of the mental layer. The mental layer for healing, in terms of real energetic healing, has really not been engaged in the way that it could have been for some time, not actively engaged, not consciously engaged, particularly when we look at the way we heal in the West. So I think that this is something that's very well addressed in many cultures, but I think that there's been a massive division within Western culture where the talking therapies and the psychology and all of that type of thing have been very much removed from the energetic healing. And what we need to understand is that both of those things work really beautifully together. And we need to start really understanding the power that happens when those two things work together. So I'm approaching this originally, my original background was a Reiki master and teacher, and still am, and a psychic medium as well. So my ability to see energy, understand how energy flows, etc., is there. Like, I've got that. I'm really, really grateful for the gift that I've got in terms of that perception. The other part of me is a very logical part of me. I have a very logical thinking brain. Not we've all got thinking brains, but I really analyze and take things apart and want to understand why things work and how they work. And so when I first heard about things like hypnotherapy and NLP, I'm actually a trained hypnotherapist now, trained and qualified hypnotherapist. So when I did my hypnotherapy course, a lot of things really started to click in for me. When I was taught Reiki a few years ago now, the real emphasis was on the healing, was on trying to prove that the healing worked. We know the healing works. We're not here to apologize now or try to prove healing. Healing works. And there are plenty of people out there and plenty of studies out there where these things are becoming more and more accepted, and where things like quantum physics are proving why healing works. So we no longer need to approach healing from an apologetic perspective where we're almost desperately trying to prove to people that the healing works. We know it works. It's been accepted in hospices and hospitals, and the NHS in the UK are working with it. So we really know that healing works. So we're in this position now where we can start moving forward and moving healing forward onto the next phase. For me, Reiki was always taught, and I've got an absolutely standard training, as most people did. It was all about the emotional healing and the physical healing, but the emotional healing led to the physical healing. And for those of us that are aware of the main four layers in which we heal, although we're healing outside of those first four layers of the aura now, with much of this work, and this work in particular I'm going to talk to you about today, fits inside of that, where we're moving beyond where we're used to. The mental layer is that third layer out. So you've got your emotions, and you've got your causing your physical illness. This is something that we generally understand and accept, and we know that you get tension in your shoulders, and that's from stress. Your tummy is upset because you're nervous. We know that emotions have a massive physical impact on our physical health, and I think as time goes on, modern Western sciences are going to prove that more and more. Past the tension and past the stress, they're going to show how when we hold on to that long-term stress and tension, how that's going to make our healing a lot more difficult if we don't learn to let go of it. What it really came down to for me when I studied my hypnotherapy course was, I knew that we lived in the matrix. I knew the matrix was there. I knew this was all constructs that we build out of our own mind. But it really showed me how much power we had, and actually how relatively simple it is to, with a visualization and a decent visualization, some good proper meditation exercises. Now we can use the power of our mind alongside energetic healing in order to really push and catapult our healing forward. I think for me the main thing was really understanding how our mindset caused the emotion which caused the physical illness. That was really important. And I think that there was a lot of emphasis for me and my way, and there still is, placed from the spiritual healing. Let's heal our spiritual selves and allow that to filter through. What we often do is we often then look at our emotions and analyze our emotions. What we don't look at is the mindset. What mindset, what belief system is it that's caused this emotional healing that needs to be done, which has in turn maybe caused something physical? So spiritual for me is a spiritual pathway. How are we on our spiritual pathway? Are we doing what we're supposed to do? How are we veering off of this? And how, when we start to veer off our spiritual pathway, which is our pathway back to ourselves, our true selves, our authentic selves, and that wholeness and that acceptance, that spiritual journey, what mindsets are there that are preventing us from going on that spiritual journey? So when we look from the bottom up, what we're looking at is, okay, I've got a physical illness. What physical illness has been caused by what emotions? And from the emotions, we can often skip up to our spiritual mindset rather than looking at the actual mindsets, the real life mindsets that we've got, and really understanding and analysing those and taking those apart and seeing, where is it that we've got this belief system from? Where is it that I need to understand that my way of life, my mindset for hard work, for example, my hard work mindset is causing me stress because I can't get out of this. My work should be easy. How do I get over this and how do I heal this? And there are a number of ways to do it, to do that healing. When we work from the spiritual down, what is it that's blocking our spiritual pathway from manifesting itself in our life? When we look at it coming from the spiritual down to the mental, down to the emotional, and down to the physical, what is it that's stopping it from moving through that mental layer, into that emotional layer, into the physical? And we all know that the physical layer is not just our bodies. When it comes to healing and healing our lives, the physical layer is also that manifestation of our life path. It's our manifestation of our goals, of our dreams, of what it is we feel we've come here to do. So when we look at the spiritual and then moving that down, what mindsets are preventing us? What mindsets are preventing us from turning this into an emotional reality? And from turning that into an emotional reality, how are we then going to allow that to manifest in our real world? So for me, the power of healing the mental layer doesn't just work up, it also works down. It works down in terms of manifestation, and it works up in terms of healing those blocks and allowing them to move and to go away. I'll come in a minute into more detail as to how we make those go away. But I'm a realist when it comes to healing. I know that healing should have the intent set on it that it's easy, that healing doesn't need to have a great big clear out afterwards. And the way that we do that is with making sure that the healing is done at the right pace for us and for our pathways. I quite often see it where people, and I've done it myself, where you headlong into that healing, you strip everything back all in one go. All of a sudden there's these realizations, I don't need this, I don't need that, and I don't need the other. We strip so much back and we fail to put in enough back into the mental layer, we fail to put enough back in, which is going to sustain us and which is going to feed us and which is going to allow that change to happen gradually and at a pace which we can deal with and we can cope with. So we all know that healing is manifestation. Manifestation is healing. When we heal, we are manifesting a healthy body or a healthy mind or a healthy soul. Those are the things that we're manifesting. Healthy emotions is what we're manifesting. So healing is just part of the manifestation pathway. So whether you choose to look at your healing as healing or whether you choose to look at it as a manifestation of something, they are both energetically the same thing and stripping apart the same lifestyles. For me, the reason why we heal is because we are trying to manifest our life. We are trying to get to that Elysium. We're trying to get to Nirvana. And that Nirvana is something here on earth, which we are creating now in reality, not something we're waiting for on the other side. So what I want everyone to really understand is that as we heal through these things and allow these mindsets to move away, what we're doing is we're drawing in new mindsets instead, which actually come out into our reality and create, which is what we're doing at the moment. Everything's been happening over the last couple of years, has been leading to this point where we are creating this Elysium, where we are creating our nirvana, and it is being laid out in front of us. And a lot of us have been through these really big healing episodes, these really big healing periods in our lives. And what I want everyone to know is it doesn't have to be difficult and it doesn't have to be hard when we look through and we understand the engaging your mind and engaging your mindset. What will happen is when we're on our spiritual pathway and we've got the spiritual layer of our aura engaged and active, and we're healing in the emotional, and we're healing in the physical, and we forget about our mindset, we forget about what we're mentally working through. And I think it's very easy for energy workers, or those of us who call ourselves light workers or healers, to very much get involved in the emotions, or very much get involved in the spiritual, and forget about the mindset, and forget about physically creating the world that we want to create. So when it comes to healing the mental layer, what we really want to do is to look at the emotion and understand, at least in basis, what it is that we're working through. I keep on getting this recurring emotion of, this keeps on happening in my life. What is this life cycle that I'm working through? The emotion is going to be the thing that links it. The way that our brain actually stores information is via emotions. So the memory part of our brain and the emotional part of our brain are the same part. So we actually store memories via emotions, and it is understanding these memories and understanding the mindsets that have been created as a result of these memories, and understanding that that's the emotions that they create, this emotional reality. So what we have to do is, when we look at our emotional reality, we look at what emotional theme is linking these. Do I feel out of control? Well, if I feel out of control, what area of control is it that why do I need control? You know, start exploring the concepts around control. This emotional link that I'm getting, it might be grief. What is it that I'm losing? What do I feel that I've lost? Is it a grief of a person? Is it a grief of a situation? Is it a grief of a part of myself? And understanding that loss and understanding where that mindset came from. If we don't engage the mental layer and try to at least understand what it is that we're working through, what we're going to find is that healing is going to take a lot longer, and it's going to be a lot harder. And those of us that particularly suffer when we say, oh, you know, Mercury's gone to retrograde and the world's gone to pot, I'm going to hide in my bed for the next 3 weeks. Those of us that really suffer like that is because we're not engaging our mental layer enough, and we're not sitting down and taking apart and understanding what it is we're actually working through. We're allowing spirit, and we're allowing the universe and the world around us to do all of that work. We're actually not taking responsibility, and we're actually not engaging and not understanding it. We need to take responsibility and really pick apart and understand what it is that we're working through. If you wish to, then absolutely you can still let the universe provide you with the opportunities to heal, the opportunities to see where your mindset's changing, the opportunities to put into practice and to put in place some real world stuff, some real world practical ways of, okay, next time somebody says that to me, this is going to be my response. Or, you know, boundary building is a really big one. Next time I might say, I think about it, rather than saying no. No might be too big a leap. Or, you know, especially if we've got debilitating relationships with somebody, what is it that I need to have prepared before I go in and speak to that person in order for me to feel strong and to feel empowered when I walk into that situation? So all of this work is engaging the mental layer. And unless we actually sit down and work out what it is that we're working through, we're never going to do that. For me, what happened was I had many clients who were coming back to me time and time again with the same emotional cycle that they were going through. They still needed to heal their throat chakra. They still needed to heal their sacral. These were recurring areas where they still needed empowerment in certain areas on a regular basis. Now, don't get me wrong, those of us that do energy healing, I think it's a really good idea to get a healing once a month from somebody else who's going to give you a little bit of perspective about your own journey. But what I found really frustrating, and what my clients found really frustrating as well, was the fact that they were going through these cycles without moving forward at a pace that they wanted to. And I think a lot of us probably understand that this pace of movement that we really want at the moment has absolutely been linked to everything that's been going on for the last few years. Now is our time to get our acting gear. Now is the time when people are going to start looking beyond normal life and looking for answers beyond that. And those of us who are already on that journey, we need to be in a fit, healthy, and emotional state in order to help those people forward. So what I started to do was to combine the Reiki healing with the hypnotherapy, and also crystals and all of that type of lovely stuff. And really getting back with hypnotherapy to the root cause of the issue. So sat down with the client, let's analyze it. What is this mindset that you've got at the moment? Working out and working through the mindset and actually healing the mindset, going back emotionally, going back energetically to that time and space and healing that mindset when that had been created. For most of us, our personalities are formed by the age of 3. We're highly influential up until the age of 3. Up until the age of 7, our brain is still on a different wavelength, which means that we are absolutely going to soak everything up without so much questioning. Some children question more than others as to why people are doing things and they can't understand it. Some don't. And equally, if you tell a child and you're in a position of authority with that child, no, or this or that, or that's the way it's supposed to be, and no, it's not supposed to be that way, they will take that because they trust you and accept it. When we start to get past the age of 7, we start to accept less and less and less. And this is as we're actually working through our chakras. So the root chakra very much takes us through and the exploration of the root chakra. All of our chakras are there when we're born. The main 7 chakras, we're exploring that up until about the age of 7. And then as our brain waves change, we start to then move through to the sacral and exploring our world through relationships. So we very much then move into that as we get older. And we're still highly influenced throughout our lives. And we will find episodes certainly of extreme stress and trauma, which are going to trigger us into a mindset or trigger us into a state of mind, which, you know, is something that we will have to heal as and when that goes through. For many people, though, it is linked to their childhood. So it might be that they've had a traumatic incident in their teenage or adulthood. Equally, it might be something very, very small which has happened as a child, but because of the circumstances and because of the influence of the person who they might have been interacting with, that has formed a very fixed state of mind, which has allowed that person to only think a certain way. Most of my clients, when they come to me, it is actually about empowerment issues. I do deal with a lot of empaths. I'm an empath myself, and I'm big, big, big on empowering empaths, that we shouldn't be hiding away, that we are here to lead the next generation forward as we move forward ourselves into society and into the world. So many people come to me with these debilitating mindsets around nerves or confidence or boundaries. And I sit down with them and we look at understanding the mental layer. And then I take them back to who they are, and something I called origin energy work. And I take them back to their original selves, and we walk forward in the power of who you are now, but coupled with all of the strength, coupled with all of the knowledge, coupled with all of the wisdom and all of the learning that you've taken from this life, because both of those things are powerful, both of those things are beautiful, and both of those things are absolutely needed when we heal. That original part of ourselves, what was it that I came here to do again? I've kind of forgotten under all the layers of life. And actually, all these layers of life have taught me so much. I've gained so much knowledge from this. And that's a powerhouse, those two things together. So that's personally how I work with clients in order to heal the mind. And when I heal the mind, I'm also using advanced Reiki techniques as well as crystal healing techniques in order to really realign that energy at that point. We're going back and we're healing that. And like I said, we're not healing that with a great big whap and a buoy and you're out, because we all know you go on that fad diet and 2 weeks later you're off it with a bag of chips in your hand. That's the way it works. we need, in order to change, to allow these small seedlings to grow. The way that I always describe it is you've pulled out a dirty grey weed from the garden. And if you're anything like me, most weeds end up going in the cook pot at some point, especially if it's some dandelion, but you've pulled out your great big weed of the garden and you've got a hole. Now, some healers will leave you with that hole. They'll strip everything off and they won't put anything back in. Some healers will fill that hole in, but they might just fill it in with dirt. And what happens often when we fill something in with dirt is, or we don't fill it in at all, that there is room for stuff to grow and to either be filled with things that we don't want it to be filled with, or it's just a space for that very strong weed which was there before to come back in and start growing again. Actually, what we need is to plant a beautiful new seed of something that's going to grow, and it's going to go through the stages of plantations of a seedling, moving up into a sapling before it becomes the great oak that it needs to be. So it's to do with giving yourself the time, space, and nurturing yourself, nurturing your healing process and allowing that to move forward. Because the way that I work is I go back to the root. I don't go back through all the different mindsets and all the different situations that have led here today. But often when we heal going backwards on our timeline. And actually what we need to do is to go, I want to heal this here, but I don't want to feel like all of that's been moved, because that's going to feel like a great big huge weight off my shoulders, but still a huge hole to be filled with what am I going to fill that hole with? I need it filled with a new mindset, a new lifestyle, a new way of being. And I spend several months working through with my clients that they end up being in this position where actually they're able to move and to take themselves forward. I'm all about empowerment. So yes, I earn less money by, not having regular clients, not having somebody turn up once a week, every 2 weeks for the regular Reiki sessions. But what I have are far more empowered clients. What I have are clients who are really grateful and really thankful to be able to move forward and to live their lives the way they need to. And they can go out and tell everybody else about that as well. So that's what I want. I'm not here just to fill my pocket every week. I'm here, and we all are when we do this work, to really empower people and make sure they move forward. So when we come to healing the mental layer, we're healing up, taking physical to emotional, emotional to mental, mental to spiritual. Okay. When we're then taking our mindset and we've planted something new, and we're doing a lot of energetic work with it, and the energetic work I do specifically uses crystals and very high-end energy healing coming in from the Sirius belt, where actually we've got this heavenly, and the crystals bring this real grounded reality healing to it. So crystals are really useful if you actually want to manifest your life's path, if you actually want to manifest real change, if you're not somebody who says, well, I want healing, but actually am I scared of that change? Do I really want that change to happen? Is there something with this old mindset where it's serving me? Is there something in this which is negative in terms of negative attention still serving me? There's lots of things that we might have to unpick and we might have to work through. But the crystals bring the healing into the physical, so it makes real world change for you. So you're bringing in the high-end heavenly energy, which is this wonderful spiritual energy. You're bringing in the very grounded physical layer healing. And then you're working with a mindset and the emotional layer as well. So you're actually engaging all 4 layers when you're doing this type of healing. When you're engaging 2 or more layers when you're healing, what you're actually doing is you are not doing a standard healing. This is not like doing 1 healing session. This is like doing 3, 6, maybe 9, maybe even 12, maybe 33 healing sessions is what you're doing in one go. So doing these types of healing sessions is what's called multidimensional healing. So when somebody talks about multidimensional healing, it means engaging multiple dimensions at the same time. Okay, when we're looking at multiple dimensional healing, what it actually means is that we're working outside of those first 4 layers. We're looking at the 5th, 6th, and 7th layers of healing. And those are our blueprints. Those are our life missions. So if anyone at the moment is feeling that, oh my God, my life is on pause at the moment, it isn't. Your blueprint is currently being reset as your new life mission is being given to you, as your higher self is incorporating some of this wonderful information that you've learned from your life so far, and absorbing that up into the higher self collective, and making that a reality up there, so that we can get on with the next part of our mission. I'm very passionate about empaths moving on to the next part of our mission. We've already anchored in the 5th dimension, all those higher dimensions for a long time. Now it's out and about, it's in reality. We just need to move ourselves forward and take the rest of the world with us. When we look at manifesting our life path, what we're doing is bringing down something from the spiritual level, an idea, something that I wanted. I don't know why I want to do that. Why do I want to do that thing? There's something that I'm led to do. It might be to teach, it might be to talk, it may be to heal, it may be that you can see a center, or you can see yourself facilitating other healers. It could be anything. It could be absolutely anything. It could be a beautiful herbal cafe where you're serving wonderful herbal teas to suit people's emotions and to suit people's moods. You might have some beautiful idea in your head, and you want to bring that through to manifestation. So it's a spiritual idea up here, and then we're then moving that down through the mental layer, through the mindset layer. What block is it in my mind which is preventing me from doing this? Is it those naysayers? Is it when I was told when I was younger that I'd never amount to much? Is it those times when things that I wanted to do with my life I was told no to, or that wasn't the right option, or that wasn't the sensible option? Is it the hard work ethic? There could be so many different mindsets, and that's for you to figure out and move down into the next layer. And then you move that down into the emotions, where you feel all the feels, and then you move it down from there. So that's the real empowerment stage. If you're not feeling your feels, and you're not getting excited, and you're not getting your energy behind something, and you can't keep your mouth shut because you're so excited about telling everyone, what's blocking you from doing that? What emotions are blocking you from doing that? And then physically bringing it out into the real world, into real world manifestation. So the mental layer is so, so important, not just from a healing perspective, not just for healers healing other people, but very much for energy workers in order to heal themselves, in order to manifest this utopia, in order to manifest this nirvana that we want to create. So you have two choices at the moment. Either you can kind of carry on maybe sifting through your emotions and go, oh, I can't deal with this emotion, it's all too much, I'm going to have to go and have a lie down for 2 weeks. Or you can engage your mental layer, and it might be something as simple as writing down emotionally what it is that you're working through, and allowing yourself to find your mindset using some journaling. Journaling is a fantastic tool. I obviously do something called Galilean healing, which I teach out, and it's full of attunements and beautiful things like that. So at some point I will be offering those back out again when we can get into real world. I can get my hands on people for attunements. It may be something that you use, something like tapping, and you can use that at some really advanced levels in order to tap through emotions and allow your emotions and your mindsets to speak back to you. It might be that you're a hypnotherapist, and you may wish to engage the energetic and the emotions. I think what's happened with particularly Reiki is that the way that it's filtered through to modern Western society has meant that it's lost a lot of that mindset stuff. So we know that Asui was a Tibetan monk. We know that he was somebody who spent a lot of time in meditation, very wise person. And if you went to him for healing, or I'm sure if you went to some of his early masters, those that he trained for healing, you would have that chat. What is going on in your life? And quite often all it needs is one thread of wisdom that somebody gives you, and it completely unravels everything. We know that somebody can just say one thing and it completely changes your mindset. But it may be that actually people need to talk through. And there's lots of stories about people going to Asui for a very long time for healing, because they were talking through and living and having their Reiki maybe 2 or 3 times a day, and spending times in meditation and with their spiritual connection in order to mentally work through what they needed to. And what's happened is that a lot of that has been lost, as those of us that have taken up Reiki have come in more on the energetic healing, and kind of in a completely understandable rejection of a lot of what's going on in terms of modern society in the West. We've kind of rejected a lot of that logic and really stepped quite heavily into that emotion, really stepped quite heavily into the energetics of it. And that's perfect. And we've broken all of those ties with those more sciencey sides. And now it's time for us to bring that into balance. And as we bring that into balance, we are engaging both the emotions and the energy, and we're engaging the mindset as well. This is how you get quick results, which are done at a pace for the client. Warning areas. There are some wonderful visualizations. The pagans do some wonderful visualizations, and the Native American nations also, through their shamanism, in the north and the south of the Americas, bring in some wonderful journeying visualizations as well. Those visualizations are sacred and old, and they work. They work because they're actually engaging the mental layer. Anyone who is leading meditation, who has got no training into the psychology of the mind or no understanding of the psychology of the mind, you need to be really, really careful about the mindsets that you're implanting when people are in these very relaxed, very vulnerable states, because their mind is so open to suggestion. So what's really important is, if we're leading meditations, if we're leading journeying without any training, without having gone down that shamanistic or that pagan druid route of training, what we really need to be aware of is, what mindset of mine am I inadvertently laying out for somebody else? What seed am I sowing that actually I shouldn't be sowing, that I shouldn't be putting out there? It's so, so important that we understand the power that we have when we're leading meditations. And that's just a word of warning to be careful about jumping into meditations and jumping into leading visualizations, past life, this life, wherever, without quite understanding what it is that you're doing. And I'd always recommend that anyone who wants to do maybe Reiki with visualizations, that what you do is you get some proper training from somebody who understands the power of the mind and understands the power of the words that you use when you're working with somebody, because that's vitally important. It's vitally important that we don't reinforce anything that's old, and we're using language and positive, forward-flowing words which are going to take somebody forward, rather than ones that are going to reinforce and click back into old habits. So all of that sort of thing is really, really important if you're going to be doing that. So if you're doing your own healing, then you might have some of your own visualizations that you want to work through or you want to listen to, but be very mindful, be very sensitive about who it is that you're listening to on YouTube. Is it somebody who's got some training? Is it somebody who hasn't got training? All of those types of things are important, as well as knowing that your energy resonates with them and that you feel drawn to working with that person as well. Qualifications, understanding, is it there? Coupled with the experience and also the connection into that person as well. All of those things are really important when you're looking to work through your healing. And if you are somebody who wants to incorporate this type of mental layer work into your work, then absolutely do, because it will just catapult your work up to the next level. Make sure that you get the right type of training, because it's really, really important. Right, thank you so much for spending this time with me. As I said before, my name is Rachel. I run a business called Rachel's Reiki Healing and Beyond on the south coast of the UK. And I am a teacher. I have my own teaching school. I'm a healer. I'm an author, and I'm a modern mystic. I'd love to catch up with you face to face at some time. Blessings and goodbye.